Imagine falling in love and the whole world is watching. What's up, everybody? So this is my trailer review for Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Now, this is part of the Ryan Murphy American universe, I guess is what you can call it. He's had American Crime Story and American Horror Story, and this is his first foray into American Love Story. And for those of you who don't know, John F. Kennedy Jr., the son of former President John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated, I think around when his son was like maybe 2 years old. So he didn't grow up, barely knew his father. But he had the reputation and I guess almost the title of America's Prince. I mean, the Kennedys is basically America's version of the royal family. And so him getting involved with anybody was big news at the time. You know, I remember this is the 90s and everybody knew that these two people were getting together, you know, and we've dealt with stories in the past, movies particularly, of, you know, somebody with a lot of status, a lot of, you know, name recognition, and then they get involved with a regular person in everyday society. I'm thinking of movies like The American President, Notting Hill, and while there's always a bit of a levity to both of those movies, this one seems different. This one seems like it's a little bit more serious, a little bit more earnest, a bit more melodramatic. It looks like it's told mainly from Carolyn's perspective. You know, it's based off of a book called Once Upon a Time, The Captivating Life of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, written by Elizabeth Beller. And I believe this is going to be 3 episodes, limited series that you'll find on Hulu. But because it's Ryan Murphy, it kind of caught my attention. I've always been a fan of his since his Nip Tuck days, for those of you who remember that series. And to see him create this sphere of all these different American stories is really interesting because it's like, okay, which one are you going to choose and how are you going to go about it? And having a couple that was just so under so much scrutiny. I mean, everyone in the world knew who these two people were and that they were dating. And this is in the age before social media, and the internet was just kind of barely coming into being in everyday life. Nothing like it was, you know, in the 2010s, where it's like kind of part of, you know, existence at this point. But it was just these two and the paparazzi and the tabloid stories and all of that. You know, it was incredibly intense, and how they dealt with it as a couple and still ended up getting married, you know, so they survived that initial courtship phase and then, you know, fell in love and then got married. For those of you who don't know, spoiler alert, it's not much of a spoiler because this is history, but they tragically died in a airplane crash that John F. Kennedy Jr. was piloting. And it was always like, you know, tragic and what might have been, and like, you know, America's golden boy and his beautiful wife are lost, you know. So it would be really interesting. I really love how the look of the actors. Sarah Pidgeon plays Carolyn Bessette, Paul Kelly plays John F. Kennedy Jr., and the resemblance is just kind of uncanny. It's slightly disturbing, but not just in physical features. There's even just like his facial expressions that are very reminiscent from what I remember seeing, you know, in interviews that he would give, or, you know, in pictures that I would see, you know, in newspapers or magazines or something like that. And it seems like really, really a fascinating dive, because what a series I think does better than a documentary is where, like, a documentary is a little bit more fact-based, like this happened, and you might have some commentary along the way from different experts or people that were involved. But with a limited series, like a dramatization of it, I think anyways, that you get a little bit closer to the emotions of what was going on with them during that time. You know, so the trailer looks really interesting, and I'll look forward to watching it when it premieres on February 12th, just in time for Valentine's Day. Anyways, what about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.